Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 2. Season 2 came out in 2006. My God, that's a long time. I just can't believe how long it's been. Anyways, it's my all-time favorite season, and I mean my all-time favorite, with season 1 coming in at number 2 and season 3 coming in well in 3rd place. Season 3 felt like a lot of filler episodes, but important filler episodes because it's supposed to help you not hate hateful nation. You're supposed to hate the government, but not the people who are brainwashed, which is a vital lesson to be learned when it comes to dealing with other countries and stuff. And so, like, season 2 was a critical acclaim season, winning multiple awards. Season 2, the thing that's so special about season 2 with me that caused me to like it so much is one, everything just got better. The writing got better. The humor got better to where it wasn't so awkward and stuff. It flowed a whole lot better. The animation improved. Like, there were times in season 1 where the animation looked a little wonky, but here everything is heightened up in the animation style. Also, some of their faces are kind of tweaked a little bit. Like Sokka and Katara, their faces are a bit more pudgier and rounder, and they have more bigger ears and stuff. And not only that, but the color palette is more beautiful, with some scenes, where the sun comes down, it's like an amber kind of look, or it's kind of like a rose kind of look. In the one episode called like the Earth King, when they try to tell him about the war and everything, and all the other stuff that was happening, when they was fighting the soldiers and heading back to the castle, it was like this rose amber kind of filter to it, and it just looked so gorgeous and amazing. That really helped set the mood that you're in a different world and everything. The choreography for the fighting got so much better, coupled with that of the animation. It was so fluid. It felt like people are really walking around fighting and everything. Like, that's how good it looked. The voice acting, that's always been good. So there was no improvement on that because the voice acting is stellar. But we got a bunch of brand new characters in the show that help make the show even better. Azula is just like, oh my God, awesome. It sucks that she's evil, but like her design, the way she fights, like the voice actor and or actress and stuff is just so like top notch and stuff. Not to mention her two sidekicks, May and Ty Lee. Two ordinary humans with no bending ability are able to give benders a run for their money. That is something that could have been controversial, but it turned out to be something very unique and stuff. Like, it's weird. Like, these people who have bending for years and years and years are taken out by not only two teenage girls, but two teenage girls who don't have no bending. They use other techniques to take down their opponents. You have like Long Fang, who is like, there's multiple villains this season. Zuko and Iroh really aren't villains this season, they're refugees. That was something completely unexpected. I was not expecting for those two to take like, such a downfall and stuff. But you have multiple villains like Long Fang. You have sandbenders. We get introduced to swamp benders and stuff. we get introduced to like this giant owl from the spirit world. And not only that, but we get introduced to the Dai Li. We get introduced to Master Yu and Wen Fu. It's like there's so many villains this season. But the probably the best thing to be introduced into this show is Toph. My God. She is probably my favorite character to ever be introduced into a show. Normally, I hate when they add to like new cast members to an established show because it's just kind of like, I don't want to have to get to know this new person. But she's just awesome. This teeny tiny little girl who is blind, who is the greatest earthbender of all time and has like a foul mouth on her. It just was something unexpected. And how she came to be is crazy because technically she's been in the show since the beginning. She's in the opening credits back when she was originally supposed to be a teenage boy. And so, like, one thing I've noticed is that this season is very more predominant female and stuff, which, all these years later, if these characters were to be introduced, oh, there'll be some angry person online screaming that this is woke and females are taking over and blah, 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 blah. But it's funny how things were different, like, over a decade ago and stuff, where people didn't complain like that. Now it's like there's a new female character introduced. Note, I said a new female character introduced, not a gender bent character. Now, when there are new female characters introduced, like that black woman from the Minecraft movie, the actress is named Danielle. She just gets attacked like crazy online by bigots. Yeah, what's this woke DEI character doing in the show? Like, they complain about new original characters now. It doesn't even matter if they're race bent or gender bent. As long as it's female and as long as it's a person of color, they go on their racist pursuit and everything. Kind of like Riri Williams, Ironheart from the MCU Marvel. She's a character introduced in the MCU. She's from the comics. She's not race bent. She's not gender bent. She's an original character. And the moment her picture started to surface, because she's been introduced in Wakanda forever, but now she's about to have her own Disney Plus series. Here come the bigots. Oh, woke DEI. Look at her. Blah, 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 blah. You said you wanted original characters. You got original characters. And you're still acting like a bunch of racists. Why? Because you're a racist and you're misogynist and stuff like that. You are incel, plain and simple as that. So I do think that if this show were to be made today, you would hear a bunch of people screaming online because that's the new fun thing to do online. And it makes me now wonder and fear for the live action television series on Netflix because you got the bigots acting like bigots, but then you have the hardcore fans not being happy with a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. In season 1, yeah, I was pissed off about a lot of stuff too, but I still watched it and I still enjoyed it for the most part. I just didn't love it. I didn't like all the unnecessary changes and stuff, especially characters' personality, which season 2 of the animated series, yeah, I'm not calling it book no more. That's just kind of odd. I'm just not calling it a book. But anyway, season 2 of the animated series is so much more bigger, so much more robust that they have their hands tied and filled for like, the live action season 2. Because there's a lot that happens, and they normally like to have only 8 episodes, and there's a lot that happens. They have to now reintroduce the trio of like Azula, Ty Lee, and May because they was introduced in season 1, and people didn't really like their portrayals in season 1 because they didn't really act like the way they do in the cartoon. So they have to nail their personalities. But also, they're gonna have to make sure the actress who plays Toph is gonna act like Toph. She looks like Toph and everything. She's short like her. But I don't know if she can act as mean as her. I've seen her act before, and I knocked my camera over. I've seen her act before, and Are You Afraid of the Dark, the reboot that happened on Nickelodeon a few years back, the Shadow, not Shadow, but the Circus episode. I forget what that's called. And her character was sarcastic in that and kind of moody, but not mean. So hopefully she can nail it and everything. Because they got to get these personalities right, because that's what one complaint was about season one. And now, since the Aang actor is like, looks like he's about 5'8" tall, something like that. The dude grew up. The dude grew up. His voice is deeper. He's taller. So they're gonna have to age up his character, which that's just something we're gonna have to deal with. You can't get angry at like natural things. You know what I'm saying? But like, it is what it is. But they have to get these personalities nailed, because I've seen that they're gonna have Professor Z that goes to what is it? Wan Shi, what's that dude, that owl's name? Wan Shi Tong. Like, library and stuff. He's gonna be in it. Lone Fang's gonna be in it. So we know the Dia Lee is gonna be in it. Somebody else is gonna be in it. I didn't see Master Yu or Wing Fu name in there, so it sucks they're not gonna be in there. But Toph's mom's gonna be in there. I know it makes sense for her dad to be in there, but I didn't see his name yet, because he's the one who really caused Toph to be the way she is and like run away from home and stuff like that. I didn't see no casting for the Earth King yet. I mean, most likely they're gonna be there. If they're not in there, that's gonna be real stupid if they're not in the show, because they're vital for certain things that happen in season two. Because season two, like I said before, is very big, robust, and a whole lot bigger than season one. So most likely they're there. They just haven't revealed the casting yet. And so, like, the actor who plays Long Fang looks kind of young. So hopefully they can make him look older or something like that. But, whatever. And so it does make me wonder what they're gonna leave out in season two and what they're gonna change. I mean, Wang Shi Tong, they introduced that dude in season one and he didn't seem mean or anything like that. So it just kind of makes you wonder. I mean, most likely, I honestly, I doubt they'll do the Appa Lost Days. Maybe they will for an episode or two at the most, because like you have to have that in there. You have to show Aang's angry side, which, back to this review, in season two we get to see Aang do something we really didn't get to see him do in season one. We saw him get legit angry. Now in season one, when he found out the monks had been killed, he was sad and turned mad, but he automatically went into the avatar state. So we never got to hear him say angry stuff or have that real angry human looking face and everything. We only got to see the avatar state. But here in season two, the dude let loose and let out his angry side. And it is pretty mean. It's hard to see this goofy kid all of a sudden get this pissed off. And that was so cool to see in season two. And to see how his mood changed and everything. To him just not caring about nothing else. And him even verbally attacking like Toph and everything. It's a side that really shows the kind of person he truly is deep down inside. He is human. We've said this before. Like the dude, like us fans and everything. Like us fans, we've said this before. Like Aang is flawed. He's not perfect. That's something the Netflix show did not understand when they kept making him so perfect and everything. And I do love the elevation and the evolution of all the characters. Sokka is less comedic this season and more intelligent with the whole tactical stuff. Katara is. She kind of took a downgrade this season, in my opinion. She doesn't make mistakes that much no more, like stealing from pirates. And she doesn't have her girl boss mode that she did at the end of season one, but she's more motherly this season. And especially towards Aang, she cradles and cuddles him a lot, which I feel like was a downgrade of her character. She still has like, some good fighting skills in like season two, but she's not around that much water. The only water she has is in her like pouch, and so she doesn't really water bend that much in season two, but when she does, it's amazing. Also, we get to see her nasty side towards Toph because those two get into it. And I'm so glad they made Toph a girl because you have two guys already on Team Avatar, and so now there's two girls, and the two girls can't get along with each other, which is something interesting because that's how a lot of females are in real life. They don't like competition. And so, like, Aang, he's less goofy this season, which I'm so glad because he was too goofy in the first season. But now he's taking things much more serious. But his serious goes from that to being sad and depressed, but for him going back on the mission and taking things serious. Zuko and Iroh was the biggest changes this season. I'm still shocked and surprised, like, the changes made to their characters and stuff. But yeah, season two is bigger, is bolder. That's funny, the bolder is in this season. He's technically Toph as well. I'll get into that a little bit later. And who he's voiced by is just so iconic. But like, season two is just everything season one was, but bigger on a scope. Because the Earth Kingdom is big and the Earth Kingdom is very bold. But we've been in the Earth Kingdom before in season one. In fact, we was in the Earth Kingdom more than we was in the water tribes and stuff. But then it's season three. I like season three. Don't get me wrong. That's technically the first season I've ever watched in production because I got into Avatar very late in the game. At first I saw it and I'm all like, what the heck is this with these weird animals? I ain't watching this crap. Then something happened. I think I was on YouTube. I saw a video of Katara fighting that water bending master from season one. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. So then I started watching the show. I'm like, wow, this show is awesome. Because Avatar The Last Airbender is one of the greatest animations of all time, if not one of the greatest just series overall of all times. There's a reason why it's been adapted twice in live action. And we all remember what happened the first time. So at least at least the Netflix series is a bit better, a lot better than that movie that came out. Oh my God. I still can't believe what they did in that movie. But yeah. It's just everything. It's just season three just feels like a lot of filler. Like I swear it does, and it feels like there's less fighting because they're hiding out more. But that series finale, oh my God, that was some great action. And we have like the two creators to thank for this. Like we have Michael Dante Di Mantino And Brian, Lord, I can't say his name, Konzikisco? I can't say his name. We have them to thank for this series, and they're not even Asian. Sadly, however, there's some tragedy in this season. One of the voice actors, the great and respected Mako, he sadly passed away from throat cancer. And because of that, he wasn't able to be in season three, and Greg Baldwin had to fill in for him in season three, which is why I wrote isn't in season three that much. Greg does a pretty good job voicing him, but he doesn't sound exactly like him. And he's even had to fill in for him in parts of like at least three episodes in season two to finish out some of his dialogue. It was truly sad to see him die or hear about it and stuff. And he got a nice tribute at the end of the episode, Tales of Bon Sensei. And so that was always just like it sucks to hear that a person from a movie franchise, a television franchise, like passes away, you know. Now there are probably about 5 episodes in season two I always tend to skip, only because they're just a string filler episodes, and I can just like do without them. Like, yeah, it's vital to like that character storyline, but I don't care. Like, you know, the Zuko centric episode and Appa Lost Days, yeah, they're good episodes. Don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of like I can do without them. I can't think of anything else that has to do with this season before I get into character bios. Oh, we learned out something very interesting about the Avatar state and what happens if you die while being in it. And so Roku tells Aang that, you know, one thing I just now realized, and I mean just now realized about the avatars and stuff, is that Roku appears to be the only old one. Because Aang died at a very young age, probably about somewhere in his like 30s or something like that. And they said it's because, you know, his body deteriorated after being in the avatar state for 100 years. So like, okay, that makes sense. It sucks, but it makes sense. But then when you look at past avatars, you notice something. None of them have gray hair. And I'm just kind of like, wow, a lot of these avatars dies in their 30s and 40s and stuff. So what's their excuse for like dying, I wonder? And that's a huge missed opportunity, I feel, from the creators. Like, we should have gotten from Nickelodeon and stuff a bunch of like one-off specials about past avatars. Like their greatest battle or the battle that caused them to die or something like that. I know some of them have been explored in comic books, but I don't read comic books, and most people don't even know that the comics even exist. And, you know, when it comes to The Legend of Korra, I still have mixed feelings about that show. I need to rewatch it to see if I still feel the same way I do after all these years. Because so far, only season 3 is my favorite. Season 1 is my half favorite. I liked the first half of season 1, but once they went to that, like, bending tournament thing, it just feels like it weighed down the show like a lot. And once I found out how, I think his name was Armand, I think. Once we figured out how he shut off people's bending, it's like, really? That's what he did? And I'm just kind of like, it's clever, but I don't know if I buy that, you know? So ever since then, I just didn't like the show. And I just had to care less about the spirit world, but it was nice to explore it. Don't get me wrong, because it's a part of Avatar lore that people want to know more about. But it's just something about the Legend of Korra that just didn't hit me as hard as Avatar did. Not to mention, Nickelodeon surely did not care for the show, taking it off TV and putting it on the internet. Not a streaming site, because they didn't have those, or Nickelodeon didn't have one back then. Technically, Hulu was around, but and it was free back then, but it's before those days. This is before the Nickelodeon app or like Paramount Plus and stuff. They put it straight up on the internet. Most people didn't even know. Like they really didn't care for that show and stuff. And so I need to really rewatch that and see if I still feel the same way I do. And so like yeah. So I'll give you a quick synopsis of what this season is about before I get into character bios. So after leaving the North Pole, our adventurers head to that of the Earth Kingdom so Aang can learn earthbending. But, you have a general who wants them to get into the Avatar state and head to the Fire Nation and take out the general. This is stupid because there's a certain process you have to go through in order to learn, all the bendings and then the Avatar state and then defeat evil and all this other stuff. It's from there we meet Toph, and then we find out what happened to Amashu. We get introduced to our new villains. Appa get lost. They head to Ba Sing Se, which is completely ruled by one man who micromanages everything. And we have Zuko and Iroh changing their destinies in life, and Zuko trying his best to accommodate what's going on in his life, but he can't because he's a hothead. You have Azula who just straight up wants to murder our heroes and everything. And Aang is faced with a difficult task. He's finally learning how to master the Avatar state, but he has to detach himself from earthly possessions and the one he loved, and we don't know if he can do it. Then he dies and gets brought back to life. The Earth Kingdom falls, and our heroes are screwed. But Sokka finds out a nifty way to defeat the Fire Nation, the Day of Black Sun. So, now to our character bios. Aang is still a goofy 12-year-old little kid who is the Avatar, but he's more serious this season. He realized running away from his responsibility cost 100 years of war, but if he didn't run away, he most likely would have died and stuff. And he's a lot more serious because he realized being goofy, especially in the battle, he managed to escape with the skin of his teeth in season 1. So he's taking things a whole lot more serious this season. But he's still young, and sometimes he still likes to goof around in the most random ways, but it's a lot less than what he did before. He still gets manipulated by people who are older than him. And so this season, this whole season with him is about detaching yourself, learning to let go. And he has to do that a lot in multiple ways. He has to let go of his goofy side. He has to let go of his pain and grief. He has to let go of his sorrows when he loses Appa. He has to let go of the one he loves because the world is more important. So there's a lot this dude has to do at just 12 years old. And, this is things teenagers and adults have to deal with. But he's doing it as a preteen and stuff. He also has to let go of his pride and his feelings when it comes to Toph because she's rude and he needs her to learn how to earthbend and stuff. And so you really feel for this kid. He has the weight of the world on his shoulders and he can't just be a kid. And so after he leaves the Water Tribe, like I said before, he heads to the Earth Kingdom. There's a general that heard about what he did at the Northern Water Tribe and stuff, the North Pole. And he just wants him to go straight to the Fire Lord, hop into the Avatar state and just kill him. But as everybody's telling this dude, you just can't do that. Aang has to learn how to earthbend and firebend, and then have to learn how to control the avatar state. It's just something that gets triggered with him because he's never properly been taught. Everybody that was supposed to teach him is dead, except for one person who comes at the end of the season. And so Aang gets manipulated into trying to trigger his avatar state until the general doesn't like the results that he gets and he threatens Katara. Aang snaps completely into the avatar state and starts destroying everything as he does. Aang is literally the most powerful person in the world, and he could literally destroy it if he wanted to. And when he's in the avatar state, he literally has no idea what the heck he's doing. It's like it's a part of his ambitions coming to life for the first time and just doing whatever the heck it wants with this awesome power. And so while in his avatar state, Roku grabs him and tells him straight up, look, the avatar state is a defense mechanism that like connects you to your past avatars and heightens your powers with their knowledge and stuff. That you just supposed to like click it on, click it off, and then use like, you know, your typical like bending powers and stuff. Aang's problem is he stays in it full time and just like wreaks havoc on his enemies and stuff. And Roku tells him that if you die in the avatar state, the cycle of avatars is broken. Now, this part is kind of confusing a little bit, especially when you get into the Korra series. I'm still not sure they fully committed to this, or I'm just not understanding properly. I'll get into that just a little bit later. And so because of this, he is now ashamed and he no longer wants to like, you know, go into like the avatar state. And so like, cause he's realizing just how scary it could be and everything. So from there, you know, they had to make their way to Almashu. So we get like, you know, the cave of two lovers where we get to see he truly does love Katara and he still does and he wants to be with her. He just doesn't tell her and stuff. And a lot of weird things are starting to like happen to him. And so like when he goes to like, you know, the swamp, and because, you know, his avatar stuff is kicking in and something just calls him there, you know what I'm saying? And so he goes there and he learns a lesson that everything in the world is connected. All he has to do is touch it, meditate strong enough, and he is connected to everything in the world and can sense everything that's going on. This is vital because it comes into play towards the end of the series when Katara is in danger. We also get to learn about I keep saying swamp builders for swamp bending. And like basically what they do, they're water benders and stuff. I'll get into them a little bit later. And so like he also had a vision of a little girl and a flying boar. And he has no idea who this little girl is. Well, when he gets to Almashu and everything, it's been taken over by the Fire Nation. Boomy didn't even put up a fight and allowed himself to be captured because he teaches Aang about neutral Jin. And so you just wait at the most opportune moment to like strike and everything. So he just did absolutely nothing. And that was kind of odd and weird. And so he has to help like the Earth Kingdom people escape like, you know, the Fire Nation in that like, you know, part of town. Once he starts looking for like a new earthbending master, this is when he meets Toph. And he beats her in a competition, which pisses her off. And she's reluctant to like, you know, train him. But then later on, she decides it's the best thing because there's two things people can get out of this. She gets to escape her like very strict parents and he gets to learn earthbending. But it's really hard for him. He can't master earthbending. It's completely different from that of airbending stuff. because Rock is very stubborn and he is more free spirited with his airbending and stuff. So they kind of clash with each other. This causes him to clash with that Toph because she's really rude when she like instructs him and stuff. Anyway, he gets introduced to the brand new villain of the season, Azula, and realizes she's a heck of a lot more scarier than Zuko is. Zuko's more angry, she's just plain evil and stuff. And her power is a heck of a lot better than his. And so from there, he learns about Wan Shi Tong's library. And it's during those events that Appa gets kidnapped. And we get to see for the first time Aang being pissed off. And I mean straight up pissed, where he wants to legit hurt somebody. And he snaps into the avatar state, which Katara has to snap him out of it. After that, he's just moody and can't get over his funk of losing Appa. It's hard and difficult because we've never got to see this from him that much other than his guilt of, disappearing for 100 years. But this isn't guilt, this is just depression and everything on a different level. And so after a while, he realizes that, it's not all about him and what he wants. It's about the world. And he has to snap out of that funk he's in. When he hears the boss and say, this is when things tend to slow down. But he realizes this great city is about to be taken by the Fire Nation, so he has to stop the drill. And the drill is one of the hardest things they've ever had to take down and stuff. Now, unlike everybody else in this series, Ty Lee takes out everybody with her pressure point, but she never gets Aang, which is really cool. And so, like, after they, like, stop the drill, because his earth bending, water bending, and air bending is really coming into play. It's great to see Aang earth bend. I actually prefer him earth bending more than he does anything else. He's very creative when he earth bends, just like he does when he air bends and stuff. Like, the tools he utilizes is just amazing, and he learned a lot of that from Toph, like how to build a stone hand to block your opponents, or to build like a suit of rock or crystal. And so he's just impressive as an earthbender. And it's like when he adds that with the rest of his bending, it's just really something to look forward to. And so while being controlled in the city, he's trying to find Appa and trying to get the Earth Kingdom to join his side in the fight. But it's hard because of Long Fang and everything. Anyways, once he finds Appa and everything, he has a chance to leave, but he doesn't. He knows his responsibility is getting the army of the Earth Kingdom in Ba Sensei, so he heads back. It takes some convincing and for him to finally convince the Earth King to join and everything. But then there's a problem. There's Azula who's now teaming with Zuko. It's an epic fight in the season finale. One so epic that all the techniques that Toph has taught him is no match against those two. And literally, before this even happens, he has to go talk to a guru, one that knew a lot of his older friends from 100 years ago. This man teaches him how to get into the avatar state. He must unleash not unleash, but what is it called? Open up all his chakrams and everything and master this state. You have to learn to let go of grief and guilt and accept love and then get rid of love and all this humanly attachment type stuff, which is something he should have been taught as an airbender because he's supposed to detach himself from the outside world. But Aang is the most unique airbender there is because 100 years ago he never detached himself from ordinary life. And so He's realizing they're losing the fight. The only way to stop both these two is getting to the Avatar state, so he has to let Katara go. This is when Azula seizes the opportunity to sneak up behind him and literally shoot lightning in his back, killing him. Yes, Aang is literally murdered at the finale of season 2. Katara, realizing this, used that special water and brought Aang back to life. And so back to Aang dying in the whole Avatar state. So Roku told him, if you're in the Avatar state and you die, that's it. Like, the Avatar line is discontinued and there will be no more avatars, and like, that's it. So Aang died. We get told that in the first episode. He dies in the last one, and it's just kind of like, holy crap, dude. There are no more avatars now. And so because of Katara, she restored his life, which restored the line of succession with the avatars and stuff. And he still is able to connect with his past selves. However, I remember at one point I was kind of confused because I think there was a point in time in the third season he was unable to get back into the Avatar state. See, this person, this guru, tried to teach him how to get into the Avatar state. He was very close until he had he could sense that Katara was being captured. And so because of that, the very last step that he was supposed to master to get in and out of the Avatar state at ease, he just completely bailed. Like, he was gonna like condemn the entire world to, like, you know, have the Fire Nation take over just so he can save Katara, a girl that he's in love with. And it was kind of like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But then during the battle, he realized, okay, look, I gotta let her go, this and that. And then, you know, he went into the Avatar state and Azula killed him. So I always assume, how come he can't get into the Avatar state no more in the third season? It was completely blocked off somehow. And so, you know, of course, you know, spoiler alert, he got, like, you know, shocked into like the Avatar state when he hit his back. He hit the same spot that Azula zapped with lightning, and it re-triggered his Avatar state and everything. Because, of course, as we all know, Korra is the new Avatar in Legend of Korra and stuff. Katara is one of my favorite characters, but I do feel like she takes a back seat in season 2. We don't learn that much about her in her past. She doesn't waterbend as much because there isn't much water like where they're at in the deserts or the rocky areas and stuff. She has to carry her water in her pouch. And she doesn't really have that girl boss mode that she did in season 1. But she is there to be the motherly figure. She has to keep the team and Aang's, like, you know, their heads up high and keep them marching on. That's her girl boss moment right there. When everybody just wants to give up, especially Aang, when Appa is lost, she's there holding everybody's hand and guiding them to their destiny and stuff, because Aang, our hero, just wants to give up. And so, like, it's great that she has this motherly figure, but it clashes with that of Toph. Toph doesn't like parental guidance, authority of any kind. And this is where those two normally start to clash. Even to where Katara, ooh, she shaded Toph so bad. Toph is blind. She can't see the stars at night. And Katara shades her about not being able to see, like, the stars. The reason why she did this is because she's fed up with Toph. You gotta remember, she's like a 14, 15-year-old girl, and she's getting bullied by an 8-year-old girl. And she doesn't like that. And not only that, but she's trying to keep the peace with everybody. But Toph is, you know, a loose cannon and everything. And it's literally like the yin and the yang, man. It's like night and day with those two. And so that's why I'm so glad they made Toph into a girl. But, you know, Katara does get some great waterbending moments. She helps deliver, like, you know, a baby and everything. And she is literally the only one who could bring Aang out of the Avatar state. The first time he went into it in the first episode of season 2, she got scared and ran with everybody else. Second time he got into it, she stood her ground. She walked up to him with a sad look and just held his hand and then cradled him in her arms and stuff. And, I still feel it's weird that a 14, 15-year-old girl is the love interest of a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old is a preteen child. A teenager is a teenager. Yeah. But if you look at it this way, Aang is technically 112 years old. He's technically a groomer. And stuff. It's also fun to see Katara fight against Azula, although sometimes their two bendings look too similar because Azula shoots out blue flames and Katara has water and that's blue. But it's a different shade of blue, but it can be kind of hard to tell sometimes, especially when the fire looks so mystical at times and watery and stuff. But they had to give Katara some things to hold on to, and one of the things that she's holding on to is her anger towards Zuko and Jet. Jet reappears this season, and automatically she just doesn't trust this dude. Same thing with Zuko, and it takes her a good while, but she has to get over herself and realize they have changed, only for Zuko to change back to evil. And she can hold her own up against Zuko, which is just like awesome. And I love seeing when waterbenders and firebenders fight each other. But she realizes Aang got killed, so she gets on out of there and everything, and she uses that special water to heal that of Aang. Now, she was originally going to use it on Zuko and stuff to heal his scar on his face and try to heal some of his pain in his mind. Because at one point, him and her was starting to, they was reconciling, they were starting to bond and everything, to the point where some people think these two might secretly crush on each other. Even Aang feels that way at one point in season 3, because I love when the writers read fan comments and, they can pick up on what they're trying to do. I think maybe, I'm not sure, one of the creators said that originally those two were supposed to be love interests, but it would have been messed up, to do that to Aang. Sokka, just like with Aang, Sokka got a man up. And he's a lot more serious this season. He is still comedic relief. Whenever somebody bends, it always ends up splashing on him or gunking him up. And his humor is a whole lot better this season. But he has really become more of a skilled tactician than anybody else on Team Avatar. He's actually the one who gives the name Team Avatar. Halfway into season 2. He's strategizing and coming up with defense plans and war plans to take on the Fire Nation, because he realizes something. Once Aang learns everything that he has to learn, they just can't walk all willy-nilly into the Fire Nation and expect to find the Fire Lord. They need a map, they need a plan of attack, and they need to gather allies. So this is what his mission is for season 2. And I'm glad they gave it to him, because he's the only one without bending, And so, in this whole season, once he realizes they need a map, and he finds out that there's a library that might actually have it, a mystical, spirit library and stuff, they head out into the desert and they go find this library. And so, it's there. He lies to the Wan Shi Tong, who's all knowing and can literally sense if you're lying and everything. But they can't find nothing on the Fire Nation. Like Zhao from season 1 and his men destroyed everything that had to do with the Fire Nation, until a fox leads them to a special chamber. It's there they find a sundial, because he found some parchment that was burnt that talked about the darkest day in Fire Nation history. It was literally the only document left, but it's been singed and you can't read the rest. So once the fox lead them to the sundial room, he literally put in the date, and it showed an eclipse that blocked out the sun, causing firebenders to lose their powers and stuff. And he realized that, yo, we can use this to destroy the Fire Nation. This pisses off Wan Shi Tong because he doesn't want his knowledge used for like corruption and death and murder and stuff. So after there's a chase and everything, Aang and what's his name, Sokka, they go back to the chamber to realize, to find out when the next solar eclipse is gonna happen. And so once they find that, they have to head to Ba Sing Se. This is what causes Appa to get like captured, because while they're down in the library, Sandbenders went and stole Appa and stuff. So from there, he's pretty much just like Sokka, you know what I'm saying? He gets to meet his father for the first time in 2 years. Like, once, he's also the one who figures out, like, people in Ba Sing Se are probably being brainwashed at Lake Lagai, or Laigao, or however you say it. And, like, he's the one who helps uncover, like the underground fortress where Dai Li brainwashes people, where they held Appa, and all this other stuff. So anyway, he goes and meets up with his dad, who he hasn't seen in 2 years. But it's short-lived because Katara is in danger. So, Toph. Voiced by Michaela Jill Murphy, better known by her stage name of Jessie Flowers. She is the brand new character introduced in the show and part of Team Avatar. She's an 8-year-old blind girl who is an earthbender. And she is probably the best creation, like I said, in television history. So her creation was supposed to be a 16-year-old boy to hang out with Sokka. And her appearance is that of the Boulder. Now, the Boulder is voiced by Mankind Mick Foley from the WWE, 4-time WWE champion and a hardcore legend. He actually just escaped a car crash. The car is totaled and somehow he came unscathed. Anyway, so that's who Toph was originally supposed to be. Like, originally they wanted her to be a 16-year-old boy. Then they later thought, okay, maybe we'll have her look like the Boulder, who's this big muscular guy who acts like The Rock. And so Mick Foley decided to voice him similar to how The Rock talks, all egotistical and stuff, and referring himself as like the third party. But then they decided, hey, wouldn't it be funnier if a teeny tiny little girl beat up on all these grown men? At first, Brian, one of the creators, did not want that. But then he later, got used to the idea of it. And now Toph is his favorite character. Funny how things work out that way. Now, Michaela, aka Jessie, she voiced the character in this show before in season 1. She was the little girl with the pigtails who was in love with Aang. And so doing that fortune teller episode. And so I'm glad they brought her back. Her voice is awesome for this. And so Toph was born blind. And she learned how to earthbend when she got lost in like these caves. And she learned from like, what those things called? Not gophers, not the badgers. Ooh, I forget the animal that teaches people how to earthbend. But anyways, they taught her and everything. And the thing is, even though she's blind, she's like Daredevil. She can see through vibrations, and she can see through her feet. So, because a lot of earthbenders are barefooted, because they have to actually, it's never explained why earthbenders are barefooted, but like they just are. And so like she says, the vibrations go through her body, through her feet, to the ground where they can sense the rock. And that's how she's able to see things through echolocation. It's a great visual in what they do. And her fighting style is very unique. It's praying mantis kung fu. She is the only earthbender who fights like that. And so, because other ones use more of kind of like they just kick the ground and then they punch and stuff like that. They're very like, stubborn, robust, like earthbenders are, and they fight with like aggression and stuff. But she has kind of like this, and it's weird. Like in the show, you see her fight two different ways, praying mantis style, and also the way a typical earthbender will bend. She has a chip on her shoulder. She's just very cranky and always pissed off, and she's very sarcastic. The reason why she's so cranky and pissed off is because of her parents. They micromanage everything she does and feel like she's like a little baby who needs to be watched over and everything. And so she doesn't like the whole like fancy lifestyle because her family is rich. And so, like, she sneaks away at night, where she becomes the blind bandit, and she beats up on a lot of guys and have a championship belt. Aang pisses her off when he defeats her, and it causes her to call him Twinkle Toes because, he's light on his feet. Because, benders walk a certain way and stuff. And so for the most part, like she gets along with everybody except for Katara for the most part. Because Katara is reminding her of her parents, telling her what to do and wanting her to do that. Because she runs away from home and she becomes very much like a wild child and everything. She finally gets to explore the world for the first time and leave her front yard. She was never allowed to leave her palace and everything. Or a mansion or wherever they live at. And so her and Katara constantly fighting in that one episode was just hilarious. But after that, they learned to be friends. It takes Toph a while, but she does learn to be a bit nicer. And it's a different side to her other than just being a cranky wild child. She has a crush on that Sokka and everything. Appa, she really doesn't like because she doesn't like the idea of flying because it scares the crap out of her. And when the sandbenders come, she has a hard time bending because it's nothing but sand. She can sand bend a little, but she's not good at it because it's hard for her to see the vibrations because of all the sand. And so Appa gets captured by them because she realized she has to keep the library, high above the ground so the kids can escape because Wan Shi Tong is trying to like bury it and everything. So this causes her and Aang to kind of get into an argument, which we really don't see that much because when she teaches Aang how to earthbend, she doesn't know how to like talk to people or teach people. She's very much like a loud coach. And so because of this, he doesn't want to earthbend and stuff. But she's so forceful in the way she bends that it just like causes him to cower and stuff. Now, oddly enough, she's friends with Iroh because they bonded over tea after she knocked him over. It's interesting because he tests her to see if she was truly blind and everything when he handed her his tea, but then lied as the reason why he gave it to her. She's the type of person who's very independent and doesn't need nobody to really do nothing for her other than like read. And when it comes to reading, she'll just hand it to Katara. It's cool how those two bond to where they act like sisters later on. And like we get introduced to two new villains in the show which capture her and they put her in a metal crate. It's from there she learns how to metal bend. I do feel like she learned how to metal bend a little too quickly in the series. It's literally just within a couple of minutes, but for her it's been like hours, you know what I'm saying? But it still would have been nice if we could it could have waited before she did that. But she is an earthbending prodigy. And in season 3, she literally learns how to sand bend like off screen. And it's kind of like we would like to learn that from her because she's not perfect either. She hates being in Boston Say because it reminds her of where she came from. Rules, and like authoritism and stuff. Now, it's interesting when she fights the Dai Li. She's so skilled that, like, because of her vibrations, just like Daredevil, She can tell if you're finna move your foot, move your hand, or move in a certain position. So she can always counter your attack. But with the Dai Li, for some reason, they throw her off her game. They're able to sneak up on her. They're able to grab her. They're able to hit her with stuff. It's really interesting and stuff because the Dai Li are kind of like ninjas. But like I said before, she can sense everything. But for some reason, they tend to get the drop on her. Now, in the cartoon series, when it comes to the Earth Kingdom, everybody is that of Chinese origin. In the Netflix show, they've changed this a bit. When we introduced into that of the Earth Kingdom, everybody is that of South Asian, Indian, and Pakistani descent. So it made people wonder, okay, are they gonna cast like an Indian actress to play Toph? But then there was this one character, I think her name is June, who was actually Asian in the show. So it's kind of like, so what are they doing with the Earth Kingdom here? Well, the actress who plays Toph is gonna be that of like, Asian. I'm not sure what kind. I don't know if she's Chinese, Japanese, or what. I've never looked into the actress background. So it seems like the Earth Kingdom is going to be a mix of either Indian or like, Chinese, like, or Japanese type, like, characters on the show. It does get a bit confusing because in the first season, like I said before, everybody was Indian except for that one Earth Kingdom woman and stuff. But Toph would now be like the other one, and so will her family. So I guess in certain parts of the Earth Kingdom, they're Indian descent, and in other parts, they're like, Chinese descent. Suki, she has a small appearance in the show. She's only in about like 2 episodes. And we see that like her and the other Kyoshi warriors have left the island to help out with the war and the refugees and stuff. Sokka didn't recognize her at first because she's out of her getup, but then afterwards she helped them go through the Serpent's Pass. And Sokka is still being his dopey self around her. Like, he cradles her to the point of babying her because he's too afraid she'll get hurt. And it's kind of a bit of a downgrade from the, like, what happened in season one, because he learned to respect her in season one. Just because she's a girl doesn't mean that she can't fight and stuff. Now it's kind of like a regression of him babying her and stuff like that, because he feel like since she's a girl she can't take care of herself. And so I do hate seeing that. But like, Suki tells him straight up, she can take care of herself, blah 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 blah. And then later she gets her butt whooped by Azula and them and have their costumes stolen. And after that, she is in prison. Because, like, when Sokka went to Kyoshi Island to try to clear the Avatar's name because of something Kyoshi did, and these people literally hate Avatars, she wasn't there on, like, the island. Which is something I've noticed about the island, Kyoshi Island. People there dress like waterbenders, but yet or water tribe people. But yet they're from the Earth Kingdom and stuff. They're the only Earth Kingdom people who dress in the color blue. Now, Wing Fu and Master Yu are two villains that are supposed to capture and bring Toph back to her family. They first get introduced into the Blind Bandit. Master Yu is actually Toph's like earthbending master. He only teaches her the basics, simple forms and like breathing techniques. And Xing Fu, he is like, the ringmaster of the underground earthbending like competitions and stuff. When like, they think that her and Aang are working together and caused Wing Fu to lose his money, this is when him and the other earthbending like, opponents like try to capture her and stuff. But then when her father assumes that the Avatar kidnapped his daughter, he sends those two to find her and offer them gold pieces. I assume we would see a whole lot more of them like we did Zuko in season 1, but no, they only appear in like 3 episodes after this. And they appear very briefly. They appear to go to like this place where you get like these fruity drinks and stuff. and they see Zuko and Iroh, so they try to collect the bounty on them. Then they capture Toph at the end of one episode. Then they're driving along with her, captured in the next, only for her to metal bend out of there and capture those two. Other than that, they're kind of just like forgotten and stuff. Sandbenders are earthbenders who live out in the desert. Since sand is granite and that's part of rock, they're able to earthbend that a whole lot better than that of like earthbending because they had to learn how to adapt. Many of them are very shady and similar to that of sand pirates, while other ones are very respectful. They are the ones who capture Appa, and this one dude's son, sold him on the black market and stuff. Swamp benders are like people who live in the swamp as opposed to that of like the North and South Pole. They're basically hillbilly hicks and stuff, or like swamp people. And they use like foggy swamp like bending style, which is very similar to water bending. And so they capture Appa because they want to eat him and stuff. Now, this is when we learned that you can actually plant bend. You take the water, you bend it into the plants, and then you move the plants because of the water. This is kind of a foreshadowing to blood bending, which we will learn more about in season 3, where you can control a person's body through the liquid blood in their body. Jet, Longshot, and Smellerbee. So Jet is back, surprisingly. He's a refugee, and he meets up with Zuko and Iroh as they're heading to Ba Sing Se, because most of the Earth Kingdom has been conquered and stuff. And so, like, when it comes to Jet, his Freedom Gang he split from them, and he wants to make a new living in Ba Sing Se and leave his fighting days alone. However, when he meets up with Zuko, he has no idea he's Fire Nation. Him and Zuko are tired eating like what is it called? Like slop and stuff like that. While the ferry, the captain that runs it, eats like a king. So they steal a bunch of food and they feed a bunch of people. It's then when Jet wants to start back up his freedom fighting days. But then he noticed Zuko, Uncle Iroh, lit his tea, and it's the most subtle thing ever, but you have to like catch it because Iroh was complaining about cold tea, then all of a sudden his tea was smoking. And so Jet is pretty sure that they're firebenders. Smellerbee and Longshot don't want nothing to do with this because they want to start a new start, and they think Jet is going crazy because like every time he tries to prove they're a firebender, they never firebend. They either use the pop rocks from like their neighbor next door, or him and Zuko literally get into a fight with their weapons and stuff. But he gets captured by the Dai Li, and he is brainwashed. When we see him again, he has no recollection of any of this. And so with the help of Aang, Katara, and all them, they re-jog his memory, and he showed them where Lake Laigai is, or Laigao is, to where the Dai Li brainwashes people. It's then him and Aang start to fight Long Fang, only for Jet to get hit with a giant boulder. And so after that leaves the biggest question of them all. See, Katara tried to heal him, but Smellebee's all like, it's too late, go find Appa and we'll take care of Jet. Toph, who has a built-in lie detector in her like earthbending, could tell they are lying because when people lie, their bodies react a certain way and she can feel the vibrations. They really put a lot in Toph, and that could have backfired, but somehow it didn't. And so Smellabee, she knew for a fact Jet wasn't gonna make it. Like his injuries are too severe. And so Longshot talks literally for the first time and only time that we see him. And so he's gonna hold off the Dai Li while Smellabee, just hold Jet's hand as he's gonna pass away. And the biggest question of them all, did he survive or did he die? In season 3, even Sokka said, they're not sure what the heck happened to him. I think that one of the creators said that Jet did in fact die. So we literally saw a teenage kid get killed by an adult in this series. I have never seen anything like that in animation, because in American animation that just does not happen. And it's really sad to see Jet like die and everything, because he was technically a good person who wanted to do the right things, but he did things in a very bad kind of way. Like, to get results, he would literally frame a person or just start attacking Fire Nation people for no reason. In a flashback, we do finally get to see who murdered his parents. It was the Rough Rhinos. We don't see too many Firebender soldiers this season. We only get a small, teeny tiny few. And the Rough Rider was one of them, riding on rhinos and stuff. And yeah, we saw the Rough Rhino dude, earlier this season. He never got his upcomings and stuff. He basically just got away with being his nasty old grumpy self. And everything. Other than getting smacked around by like Aang and like Katara, but that's about it. Professor Zai. So Professor Zai is a professor at Boston State University, and it's his life goal to find Wan Shi Library. And he's been going in and out the desert many times only to fail. So Aang and the gang help him out. It is there, that's when they learned about the solar eclipse and Wan Shi Tong himself. Basically, he's just a happy guy who wants to learn as much knowledge as possible, but he's tough. He scared away the sandbenders when they tried to get Appa the first time. And so down in the library, he lies along with the other kids to why they're down there and stuff. But when Wan Shi decided to sink the library, he decided he's gonna stay because knowledge is the only thing he cares about. What happens to him after that, nobody knows. But the fact that dude's really ready to live down in the library with no food, no water, and underground just for knowledge is crazy. Wan Shi Tong is a ginormous owl, and he knows everything. He can tell when you're lying, and he collects tons of knowledge. His library used to be high above the ground, but it started sinking because of the sand. He has foxes, like normal foxes. It's funny when you see normal animals in this show, and the kids are kind of like, what the heck kind of creature is that? Like the Earth King's bear and now the foxes. Basically, they go out and they find knowledgeable stuff and bring it back to the library. He used to allow humans to go to his library to learn knowledge, but because of Zhao, all of that changed. He used the knowledge on the two fishes from the North Pole to, stop water bending and pretty much consume the world into I don't know, that really weird kind of red sky type thing. And because of that, the Fire Nation decided to burn everything about the Fire Nation so that nobody can use that information against them. Because of this, he's been furious about humans ever since, and he can't stand them. But, when the kids lie about why they're there, he allowed them, but he can tell that they're lying. He's just waiting for them to expose themselves. Once Sokka's big mouth started to expose everything, he had the information he needed, and he was going to kill the kids and allow the library to sink underground, even killing that of the Avatar. But he's foiled by actually by Sokka in a book and everything. And so, I don't know if they said he's from the spirit world or not in the cartoon, but in the live action series, he is from the spirit world. Whether or not he ate Professor Zai is unknown. Uncle Iroh. Ah, may Mako rest in peace. The first time I ever saw this man in live action was that of the third Highlander movie. He also appeared in Charmed, and he was the voice of Master Splinter for the first CGI Ninja Turtles movie that was completely CGI. And so this was his last like voice recording role. I think the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie was in 2004. And so, it was so sad when he died. So, Uncle Iroh is a bit different this season. He's still jolly, he still likes to eat, and he still loves to drink tea, but they've shown him loving tea a heck of a lot more. He's also shown to babysit that of Zuko a lot more and love him as a son. Something we saw in season 1, but to a greater extent in this season. He let Zuko go off on his own, but he secretly has been tracking him. And when Zuko ran off to go find Appa to capture the Avatar, he tracked down Zuko. He's able to defeat agents of the Dai Li on his own. His martial arts and firebending ability is superior to that of pretty much almost everybody, even that of Azula, who he's able to defeat with ease and stuff. He's able to even redirect Azula's lightning. We've seen him redirect lightning before, but the first time was in the case of a lightning storm. And when he did it, it was just kind of like, what the heck did he do? It was never explained, but that was just a foreshadowing until this season. Firebenders can lightning bend, but only specific firebenders who have studied the art, which is very, very few. The only ones that we know so far that can master it is Ozai, Azula, and Iroh. But Iroh learned the technique from waterbenders, and so he used it to redirect lightning and stuff. He tries to teach Zuko both techniques of lightning bending, but Zuko is Zuko and he's unable to learn. So it causes him to be more hot-headed. Iroh is very passive this season, to where he's no, like in the first season, you couldn't tell if he was really a bad guy or a good guy. He was a bad guy with a nice soul to him, but he still did shady stuff. But he mostly just did it because he knows Zuko wanted to capture the Avatar. Here, he's very passive, and he's put all that bad stuff beside him. And all he wants to do is survive in the Earth Kingdom because they're fugitives of the Fire Kingdom or Fire Nation that he learns, I believe, in the first episode. Because of this, it causes him and Zuko to chop off their ponytails and become refugees. The whole White Lotus thing becomes more relevant this season when it comes to his Pai Sho piece. I believe that he lost in the first season. He's very adamant about finding it in the first season, and now we know why. There's a secret society known as the White Lotus that gets explored a heck of a lot more in the third season. And it's because of them, they help them escape and go to Ba Sensei. It's from there they become tea servers. He doesn't mind this poor lifestyle, but Zuko can't stand it. When Zuko tries to steal Appa to capture the Avatar, he basically just berates the dude and tells him, like, you're foolish and you never think these things through. And, like, you know, if it wasn't for the Avatar and his friends, you would have died in the North Pole and froze to death and stuff. And he tries his best to get through Zuko's head, but it's so hard because it's so thick. But he finally gets through it, only for Zuko to collapse and go through his metamorphosis and everything of his mental state. It's there he spends time healing him. We learn about his son that died in the war a long time ago. When he goes to Ba Sensei, he thought he would be there as a conqueror, never knowing he'll be there as a refugee and to serve the Earth King tea, only to be fooled by Azula. He escapes and he finds the gang because somehow he's just able to trap people very well. He's friends with Toph and he gives Aang some advice. When he sees Zuko still wants to fight the Avatar, he pretty much helps Katara takes a dead Aang to escape. So he fights off Azula, the Dai Li, and Zuko and everything. But he allows himself to be captured. He knows he's outnumbered and he can take every single last one of them. But, he knows that if he continues to fight, Zuko could get hurt and he might have to fight Zuko, and he doesn't want to do that. In the next season, things are completely different. He barely shows up because the actor died and they wanted to limit his time. Probably out of respect and because Greg Baldwin, he can do the voice just not perfectly and stuff, but he's close to sounding like him. I do wonder if he would have lived, how would Iroh's outcome be in the third season? Zuko is just wow this season. Like, I was not expecting him to do some of the things that he did. Like, because we learn a lot more of his personal side. He does have a caring heart and he does want to find love. And he even helped rescue a boy from some earthbending like thugs and everything. But, he screwed up in the North Pole, and because of that, his sister has now taken over in finding the Avatar, which he does not like. She even has a nickname for him, Zuzu. He is the oldest, but she acts like she's the oldest. She is the favorite in the family, and he hates her to death. She hates him too, but we're not sure why this season. And so when they have to like run away and he chops off his ponytail, he's living that poor lifestyle and he hates every single last bit of it, to the point where he starts stealing from like rich people just so him and his uncle can have a better life, but his uncle doesn't want thievery and stuff like that. He had his clashes with Jet and his friendship, and then after that, he goes off on his own, and he's too stubborn to learn that of lightning bending. It gets to the point where he feels like he can make it on his own because he never thinks nothing through. He's so angry and so pissed off, he literally thinks he's the man, but he's just a confused, scared, angry little boy or teenage boy. And so is during this time we find out that like he tried to date like a girl. There's a little boy he tried to save, but when they found out he was Fire Nation, they wanted nothing to do with him. Well, at least the boy didn't. And so because of this, he just feels like he's an outcast everywhere. So this just causes him to be more angry. It's when he finds Iroh and Iroh gets hurt. This is when he tries to like help him and stuff like that. Wait, did he run over? Did he leave before the lightning lesson or after? I forget. Anyway, so after that, he just realized, you know what? This is my life. It sucks. I'm just gonna serve tea and everything until he finds a flyer letting him know that Appa's been missing and that the Avatar is in Ba Sing Se. This is when he goes back to his crusade of trying to capture the Avatar, thinking his dad will welcome him back with open arms. But Iroh tells him his father is not that forgiving. He has no place by his father's side. And after a huge pep talk, he lets Appa go, only to collapse. His internal struggle is deadly to his body and his mental health. He's been angry and evil his entire life, and now he did a good thing and his body doesn't know how to react. After this, he's nice and jolly and stuff, which is weird in an almost magical kind of way. Until like he sees Azula and like he tries to add Nikai her only for the Dai Li to whoop his behind. Is there he meets Katara, and after she berates him, she wants to help him out only for him to see Aang. He hates Aang so much. He feels like Aang is the true source of why his father doesn't love him and why he's abandoned and everything, but is not. And so Azula convinces him to turn against Iroh and fight the Avatar, and together they whoop on Aang's behind and Katara. It's so sad to see him turn against everything that he worked so hard to become good and everything, just to go back to being a spoiled little brat again. And to team up with Azula, and when she legit hates his behind, is just weird. The Dai Li are earthbenders, and they work for Long Feng. They are an elite fighting force that are highly skilled, and they use rocks as gloves, which they use to fight with people, even to the point of like sneaking up on Toph and capturing her at times whenever they're in a fight. Like when it comes to fighting, a lot of people have the hardest time fighting them, even Toph and Aang. Long Feng. Long Feng is voiced by Clancy Brown, the voice of Lex Luthor from the Superman cartoon, the Cregan from the Highlander movie, and Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. And so Long Feng is an interesting character. He micromanages everything. He is the true person who is in charge of Ba Sensei, while the king is a puppet. That sounds familiar as well. And so, like, apparently Azula read him like a book and said that he grew up poor and he had to fight and struggle for everything. This is why he holds on to power and micromanages everything that he does. The Earth King has no idea there's even a war going on with the Fire Nation, because no king, Earth King, has ever left, like, the outer ring of, like, the kingdom and stuff. So he has no idea what's going on, and he's just a goofy kind of person. And so Long Feng has kept this from him. He intercepts everybody's mail. He captured Appa when Appa was about to find Aang. He doesn't want to disrupt the natural balance of what's going on in Ba Sensei, because it's supposed to be like a paradise, but there are some people that are poor there, but they live in fear of him and the Dai Li. The Dai Li are like ninjas who wear stones on their hands, like rock gloves and rock shoes and stuff. They're very precise and proficient, and they fight like ninjas and stuff. And so, like, when, like, the Avatar screws things up for him, and so does Azula, he tries to lie his way out of it when they say he captured Appa, he's deceiving everybody, this and that. And so when he's captured, the Dai Li don't serve the king, they serve him. And so, like, but he's defeated by Azula because she beat him at his own game to manipulate and control people. He took control of the Dai Li, and that's his greatest asset right there. The trio. They are fascinating, but I will say their downfall is that we don't know much about them before they joined up with Azula. We know little tidbits here and there, but we don't know much. They won't get explored more internally until next season. So, Ty Lee, voiced by Olivia Hack. She is very bouncy, very jolly for a Fire Nation person. She went to the Fire Nation Academy for girls, just like May and Azula, and she is very deadly. She's very good with martial arts, and she's an acrobatic. She's good with pressure points, reminding me of Xena. This is how she's able to fight benders and stuff. She bops around, like, she's kind of like a combination of Xena and Harley Quinn. She's always bouncing around, flipping around, and then she hits you with a couple of quick jabs, doing certain points in your body, known as pressure points, and it can disable your body. It weakens your arms, your legs, your chest area anyway, but she also knows how to block the chi from bending. This is the greatest gift she can do, because it's the only way she can truly fight against, like, a bender, where she disables I truly believe what it is just she just disables their arms and legs, and that blocks their chi, but apparently it's more magical than that, but she has no magic. And so when we see her, she's in a traveling circus. She still is in the Fire Nation, but she lives in the Earth Kingdom, traveling around the circus, until that of Azula convinces her, or tricks her, as I should say, to join her group. She knows that if Azula doesn't leave, she's gonna keep wreaking havoc on the circus and everything. She set the net on fire. She released all the deadly animals. So she realized this is in her best interest to leave so that the circus can stay intact. Being manipulated by your friend. May, voiced by Cricket Lee. So, I think that's her last name. So, she's interesting. She is a very, very, very bored teenage girl who's moody and it's as emo as they come. She is the daughter of like a high society ranking type Fire Nation person. She's friends with that of Ty Lee and Azula, and she grew up with them. And so when Ty Lee's all, aren't you happy you're gonna get to see Zuko? We don't know what this necessarily means, but she smirks like she had a crush on him or something like that. And so other than that, all we know is that she hate like, like living in a high society type lifestyle. She wants to travel with Azula and she can throw daggers really good and flying darts and stuff. And other than that, that's really all we know. However, she is the only one to defy that of Azula. When Azula wanted her to go after the Avatar and his friends, she didn't want to jump in the slurry, which is basically rock and water mixed together to look like sludge. And she literally said Azula can shoot all the blue lightning she wanted her. She don't care. So it lets you know she's defiant and everything, but we don't get to see this more until like season 3. Princess Azula, voiced by Gray Delizzy, I think that's how you say her name. She is an extremely famous voice actress and very good and like one of my all-time favorites and stuff. She uses her own voice for Azula and Azula is deadly. She is a perfectionist. And the thing that's interesting about Azula is that right from the start, you know exactly what kind of person you're dealing with. We only saw her very briefly in season 1, but now we get to see her in her full potential in season 2. From the start, as she's on the ship, the captain tells her the tides won't allow them to dock and everything. She let him straight up know, like, do the tides control like this boat? Do they control you? Do they control me? Well, and she's all like, well, the tides hesitate to kill you and everything. And she's all like, since the tides have already made up their mind of whether or not they're gonna kill you, I'm still mowing it over and everything. So basically, she's letting him know straight up, like, she doesn't care if there's a bad storm, they're gonna muster through and nothing is gonna stop them. She is as deadly as she looks, but she's drawn so gorgeous, you don't expect her to be this evil until she gives you the look. She has these long claw type nails and she's a firebender, but her fire is the only one that is blue. She is the only person till this day that can blue firebend. Blue fire is as hot as it comes, but her blue fire bending, once it starts to settle, it turns orange like a regular color, but it comes out smoking hot. She fire bends completely different from everybody else who uses an open hand or a closed fist. She uses her 2 pointer fingers because she is very precise. We also see when she's practicing her lightning, because she can lightning bend as well, one of her hairs is out of place and it pisses her off because everything must be perfect. She must control everything, even the length of like her hair. That's how narcissistic she is and everything. And she hates Zuko to death, but we don't know why. In a flashback in season 1, we saw her being very happy that her father was going to punish Zuko in the Atni Kai. And now we know that she hates him, but once again, we just don't know why. Not going to find out until season 3. She will even backtalk to that of her uncle. And he's a high-ranking, like, former, like, general and stuff like that. Or technically still is a general and everything. But he's highly regarded in the Fire Nation, and she will disrespect him. Her task is stopping the Avatar, and Aang is in for it, man. He's like Azula is just like that good, better than Zuko. She's a way better firebender than he is. And she can pretty much do anything a firebender can do. She just can't redirect a lightning. And so she's also a skilled tactician. She is very to the point and very blunt. Like she's always like 5 to almost 10 steps ahead, and she takes control of every situation. Wherever she goes, she's kind of like Bane. She doesn't take orders, she just takes over a person's operation and stuff. She managed to capture, like after the whole drill episode, we don't see her again for a very long time until Lost Days, when she defeats the Kyoshi warriors and stuff. And then when she infiltrates that of the boss sensei, she's dressed like a Kyoshi warrior. And so when she finds out that Zuko is like there, like, she uses this opportunity. Long Fang already knows something's up with her and wants them to spy on the Kyoshi warriors. And so she realizes that, who's really in charge of the Earth Kingdom. And so she allows herself to be captured and stuff by having Mei and Ty Lee talk so loud to tell their plan. When she's captured, she's pretending like she's a helpless, captive, and that the Fire Nation will stop them and everything. But basically, she uses Long Fang to get control of the Dai Li, and she scares the piss out of them. So much that they turn on Long Fang. And so, like, because of this, like I said before, she corrupted Zuko, and she whooped on Katara and Aang and murdered Aang with like lightning through his back. So much that the exit point is on his foot, where you see that burn mark and everything. This is really impressive for her to kill an Avatar. It reminds me of Spike from Buffy, somebody who's known for killing a Slayer. And Gray did an amazing job voicing her. Like, Gray loves this character. Before Gray left, like, Twitter, she even used to, like, talk to people sometimes in Azula's type, like, voice on, like, Twitter, because she just loves that character so much. So, yeah, season 2, like I keep saying, is bigger and bolder than that of any other season. And the live-action Netflix series, they have their hands full because they have to make this season perfect, because season 2 is near perfect and everything, and they really have to get certain things on point. The Azula actress is gonna have to act like Azula. Mei and Ty Lee are gonna have to act like Mei and Ty Lee. Their story of Azula recruiting them is completely gone now because they introduced them in the first season. The actress who plays Toph, I forget her real name. She's gonna have to act like Toph. If she doesn't act like Toph, then it's all over, in my opinion, because a lot of the personalities in season 1 just did not match up. She's also gonna have to pretend to be blind. Originally, they was gonna cast a blind actress, but they came to their senses and realized, the actress is going to have to do a lot of bending and a lot of fighting, and it's going to be rough. So they got somebody who can actually see. Because Toph doesn't fight with her hands in hand-to-hand combat, she just bends, but she has to be able to move around without tripping around everywhere, and also to climb up on their makeshift appa and stuff. And you don't want a person who's actually blind to actually get hurt, you know what I'm saying? Plus, Toph, when she earthbends, she uses bricks and stone to flip and fly up in the air or raise herself up. So the actress is probably going to be on a harness. And once again, you don't want a person who's blind to hurt themselves. Now, the live action Netflix series, they can earthbend. They've proven they can do that very well. But sometimes when they earthbend, their rocks look like clumps of like dirt and everything sometimes. Now, one thing I didn't like in season 2 of the animated series is that when they earthbend, the ground is not distorted. Like, it just looks plain and simple like it always does. Sometimes it's the, how can't I say this word right now? I can say it every other time. not distraught, but distorted. That's it, distorted. Sometimes it's distorted, but other times it's not. And it's really weird. I guess it was to save time in animation, but it's weird when you see these giant bricks and boulders and walls come out the ground, and the ground is completely normal looking. Thankfully, in the Netflix series, they corrected this. And they're gonna have their hands full when having the CGI a lot of this earthbending. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.